For today's video, I did a little experiment on Black Ops Cold War. I thought it would absolutely be genius to use a HD7870 with 2GB of VRAM in this modern game. And just a side note here to point out that this card was like completely unplayable during the open beta. So this also serves as a kind of let's see how well it's been optimized. I know certainly I was worried about the performance that the budget gamer was going to get in this game. So firstly, the minimum requirements for this game is actually a HD7950. The 7870 that I'm using is the GHz edition, which is actually just a shaven down version of that card. So if you've got a HD7950 or one of the listed cards for the minimum requirements, then you're going to know what kind of performance you can expect by watching this video. So the gameplay you have been watching right now is actually using the recommended settings. It set me to 1080p low settings and also set the render resolution down to the lowest possible one, which I believe is about 44% of native 1080p. This is why the gameplay right now looks so fuzzy, so grainy, and to be honest, a bit of an eyesore. Regardless of that, I powered through. There was only a few visual glitches. Frame rates were great as you would imagine with these low settings, and I was able to still hold my own in a gunfight. Yes, somehow. So for the next map, which is Armada, I decided to switch it up and go full native 1080p. I recommend that you keep looking at the frame rate as you're watching. The moments with those long field of views, the frame rate really does tank. And talking about frame rate, the 0-1 percentiles were actually just terrible during the entire video. So the biggest problem that I had, as you probably would imagine, when you're taking off graphic settings, when you're actually doing like the render resolution lower, was identifying the enemy targets and actually being able to aim properly over distance. Up close, it's not really a problem. Even with the frame drops, I kind of still can win gunfights. But if you got someone going prone or someone hiding or head glitching or something like that, it is so awful. Despite this, I somehow managed to actually place first on my team. I don't even know anymore, YouTube. It was during my time in Armada where I started to realize a lot more visual glitches were happening. This would be like when trying to use the zip lines, the prompt to take the action wouldn't come up and it would cause me to mistime it, or in some cases not even do it at all. It was quite the experience, let's just say, and let's move on to Crossroad. Now the visual glitches that you're seeing now is exactly how the entire game was playing in open beta, which means that I called it unplayable. There's completely no way to identify any enemies. With all the visual glitching going on, it's easy to mistake a glitch for a person or movement in the corner of your eye. It is completely confusing trying to play this, especially on a map like this with a load of snipers. I definitely feel sorry for anyone who has to actually use this card to play the game, and in fact any budget gamer out there that has to play Cold War. Okay, so moving on to zombies, I again used the same settings, so 1080p, 100% render resolution, so native 1080p but low settings. In zombies, as you would notice by the gameplay, although frame rates were like okay, I'd say, somewhat playable, this was the most noticeable part of the game that was stuttering, and you can actually see that quite clearly here. As the game progressed even further, the performance actually dropped. I stayed in the first area, especially because it's quite open. I thought it would give me some consistent numbers throughout. In this game mode, I noticed the frame rate dropping below 30, but for some reason I kind of still can play it this way. I don't know. I guess it's because I used to play a lot of the zombies on like PS3, and we all know what the frame rate was like on that. My overall recommendations would be, don't play this game if you're going for minimum requirements. It doesn't quite feel there yet for optimization. If you're gonna do it anyway, drop down the render resolution to about 60% and then enable anti-aliasing in order to get rid of those jaggies and to try and smooth it out so your eyes don't bleed, because for some reason it doesn't seem to affect the gameplay that much adding some anti-aliasing. As for gameplay, I would say if you're gonna play multiplayer, try and stick to the small multiplayer maps. Also try and force the enemy into close quarters fights, because then you're not at such a disadvantage with landing shots on. Anyway, that's going to do it from me and this video. I do plan to cover Cold War quite a lot here on this channel, with separate videos for multiplayer, zombies and so on. Maybe the odd gameplay here and there too. With that said, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're new, like the video, do all that YouTube stuff, and I will see you in the next video.